Hi, everyone, and a very good day to you. Here we are again with our program Real Talk from Woman to Woman. We are reflecting on the book of Esther. We are in the series God Sees. Now, I'm so excited about this program today because then today we are going to start to see the justice of God being manifested in the life both of Mordecai and Esther. Uh, Now, yesterday we were learning that uh, problems they come to everyone, right? But it is the way we react to the problems that make the difference, correct? So when we are not in the faith, when problems come knocking on our door, what happens? We panic, we become overwhelmed by the problem, we become hopeless, and even many end up their lives because they are so desperate, they don't know what to do, and they end up their lives. And even worse, there are others that even turn against God. They think if God was God, if God existed, if God was with me, then why did this problem happen to me? And they turn against God. Where was God when I needed him the most? Many people question, right? But this is because the problems, when a problem defeats a person, the problem drags a person down, is because the person has not been in the faith and has been revealed when they face the problem, right? So when we are in the faith, on the other hand, we are moved by a revolt, not anger. And if anger is not anger towards people but towards the problem, the situation, the injustice we are living in, so we get angry not to people, not to God, but against the problem, right? And instead of being overwhelmed by the problems, what we do, we use spiritual weapons, the weapons that God has given us to overcome the problems. That's the difference between those who are in faith and those who are not. So, in short, problems come to reveal our spiritual condition, our state, our condition, how we are before God. Are we in faith or not? That's what problems do. They reveal what is inside of us. So many people, they say, I'm in faith, but when the problem comes knocking on their door, they have a reaction that is not of faith. So that means, in reality, the person was not in the faith, right? Now, I made here a short list. How do we become people of faith? Because, okay, let's say that at the moment you realize that you have not been in the faith. You thought you were of the faith and in the faith, but when the problem came, when a negative situation came, when your goals, your dreams didn't happen as you thought, um, and you realize that you were not that person in faith. So what to do next? Now it's time for you to step into faith. And how do you do that? Now, of course, we do that by meditating in the Word of God. That's first thing. Now, meditating on the Word of God does not mean to read the Bible, because many people, they read the Bible but they are not in the faith. They don't absorb the Spirit. They don't know how to apply that in their personal lives. Therefore, when they face problems again, they don't know what to do with the knowledge they have. But meditating is when you take the Word of God and you are doing what you do what we are doing here in this program. For some people, this program is boring because we only talk, right? But actually, we are not just talking. We are reflecting. We are meditating on the Word of God, and that's why we take our time. Okay, so that's meditating on the Word of God. You reflect, my God, how can I apply this in my personal life? Okay, that's meditation. Now we also become people of faith by developing a relationship with God. And again, developing a relationship with God is not only praying, because there are people that pray like they don't think what they are speaking, but they just pray like a robot. They say the same things over and over again. But the prayer is a relationship with God, is not just a prayer, but is a conversation with God. For example, you meditate in the Word of God and you spot something that is not right before the eyes of God. You spot something negative about you. You spot something ugly, a feeling, an emotion that does not reflect God's character. What do you do with that? You go and you pray, you speak to God. My God, I thought I was in faith, I thought I was strong, I thought that I was okay, but I just realized I have this bad feeling inside of me. And you talk to God about this feeling. You don't cover up that feeling. You don't pretend that everything is okay. So, whatever is inside of you, you are able to communicate and speak to God about that, and you seek His guidance, you seek His help. When you face a problem, you take it to God, you speak. Instead of calling a friend, calling family, instead of even uh, going to the pastor, the assistant, talking about your problem, the first thing you do, you talk to God about the problem. That is relationship with God. You can later go to the pastor for advice. You can seek advice from the assistant. You can even seek prayer. But the first reaction, it has to be you and God. That is developing a relationship with God. Now, we also become people of God by staying away from sin and temptation. So when you meditate in the Word of God, it gives you direction, it tells you what to do and not to do. And then you don't, when it conflicts with your own desires, when the Word of God conflicts with your own desires, you don't say like this, I'm not sinning, God understands me. And you like you flirt with temptation, with sin. You stay there lingering around sin. You know what I mean? No. You become a person of faith when the Word of God confronts you and God shows you He's not pleased with certain habits, attitudes you have, and you let go of that. Okay? So you stay away from sin and temptation. And finally, out of the list I prepared, you always obey the will of God, even when you do not understand and when it conflicts with your own will. That's how we are people of faith, and we stay in faith. Okay, so now let's move on to the Esther chapter 5, so that I do not delay. It's so beautiful what we are going to read today. I also don't know if we are going to be able to reflect on everything, but we will start chapter 5, reminding you that we are in the fast of Daniel. We are in this journey towards the altar of justice, and you can connect with us um, later on at 10 p.m. with our journey of faith, okay? Here on YouTube or Facebook. Let's read and reflect on the Word of God. If you have missed the previous episode, make sure you go back, check the playlist on YouTube, God Sees series, and you will see the reflections we have been making since Monday about Esther and Mordecai. You can also follow us. You can subscribe if you have not yet, and you can activate the notifications on YouTube or on Facebook, so that every time we are live, not alive. Every time we are live, you will receive a notification, and you don't need to miss a single program. Okay, let's go and read here Esther chapter 5. Esther chapter 5. Let's read. Esther's banquet. Now it happened on the third day that Esther put her royal robes and stood in the inner court of the king's palace across from the king's house, while the king sat on his royal throne in the house facing the entrance of the house. So 3 days later, after Esther presented a fast to God in favor of the Jews, asking God favor so that when she would present herself before the king, he would stretch out the golden scepter, right? So 3 days later, that's exactly what she did. She went there and presented herself before the king. And so it was when the king saw Queen Esther standing in the court that she found favor in his sight. And the king held out to Esther the golden scepter that was in his hand. Then Esther went near and touched the top of the scepter. You see, here is a very important point to speak about. Esther did not rely or didn't have confidence only on her beauty. Esther could have said like this: look, so many girls went before the king, and the king loved me more than everyone else. But she didn't put her confidence on her beauty, on herself. But what she did, she put her confidence in God. And sometimes when we have a certain experience or knowledge, we are good at something, we tend to put our confidence on that and not on God. And that's where many times we fail, because instead of relying on God and going to God for help, we become self-sufficient and we rely on our own abilities, and we start to do things out of the top of our head. We start to do things alone by ourselves. Esther, no. Esther, she trusted in God, not in her beauty. Her confidence was not on the things of this earth, on the temporary things, but her confidence was 100% in God. Okay? So let's move on to verse 3. And the king said to her, "What do you wish, Queen Esther? What is your request? It shall be given to you up to half of the kingdom." Now, another thing that drew my attention was that Esther, she didn't take advantage of the generosity of the king. Esther could be a person like this. Wow, the king offered me up to half of the kingdom. Let me take advantage of this. I'm going to prosper. I'm going to be rich. Even using the excuse, now I'm going to be able to help my people. But Esther did not do that. Esther did not take advantage of the situation for her own benefit. The only reason she was there was not for herself, her personal goals, her personal ambitions, but the reason why she went before the king was with one aim, and that was not a selfish aim. That was to spare the souls of all those Jewish people. And that's exactly how we move God's hands when we have only personal ambitions. We are very selfish. We are only looking into our belly button, right? We are only looking at our own interests, and we don't look for the interest of others, and especially God's interest. Then how can God judge our case? When we come before the court of God, we have to come with unselfish reasons. It has to be for the glory of God, and always thinking of the interest of everyone else. So, for example, if you are tired in your marriage and you are only thinking at your own interest, you don't want to have headaches with your husband. You only want to have your husband for yourself. Oh, obviously you don't want to share your husband with anyone else. But I mean, if that's the only thing you fight for your marriage is for selfish ambitions, your own purpose, you take advantage of the faith only to look at your own benefits, and you don't consider the soul of your husband, then how can God answer? God answers people that are not looking only at their personal interest, but they look first of all to glorify God, to the glory of God. First thing. And second, they think, how can I help my family to know God? How can I save the soul of my family? And this goes for all areas of our life. If we have selfish ambitions, we only think about ourselves, then it's very difficult for us to get the favor of God, right? So Esther, she didn't take advantage of that circumstances. And another thing that happened, let's read first verse 4, and then we speak about that. So Esther answered, if it pleases the king, let the king and Haman come today to the banquet that I have prepared for him. Then the king said, bring Haman quickly, that he may do as Esther has said. So the king and Haman went to the banquet that Esther prepared. So you see, Esther, at that moment when she came before the throne of the king, again, she didn't take advantage of the king's generosity, but also she didn't vomit out, any form of anger or hatred towards Haman. In fact, her reaction was in spirit. So you see, when a person is in the faith, like we were talking, when a person is in spirit, the attitude, the reaction is all done in spirit. She didn't go there and point fingers, Haman, and by the way, Haman was not there. She could come and present an ugly story about Haman, okay, and get him out of the way. But no, she did everything in the right way, in spirit. And that's what the lesson we have to learn. Whatever we do, it must be in spirit. Because if it's not done in spirit, the favor of God is not there. The grace of God is not there. We will hardly see the result of the faith. So everything we do must be in spirit. Let's continue. Let's go to verse 6. At the banquet of wine, the king said to Esther, "What is your petition? It shall be granted to you. What is your request? Up to half the kingdom it shall be done." Then Esther answered and said, "My petition and request is this: if I have found favor in the sight of the king, and if it pleases the king to grant my petition and fulfill my request, then let the king and Haman come to the banquet which I will prepare for them, and tomorrow I will do as the king has said." Look, I wish we would have more time for me to continue this, because it's so strong. You see, when a person is in spirit, does not panic, the person has had time to present her case in the right way. And that's what I'm going to leave you today, although I wish we had more time for us to go ahead and speak and read and reflect on the next verses. But I will leave this for Monday, okay? So this is the program for today. I hope this has helped you, reminding you that we are going to be back with our prayer of agreement. Let me put here on the screen. We are going to be here with our prayer of agreement in a short while. And also, coming up next as well, the prayer of agreement and also our love therapy. So join us again, and reminding you, if you have missed any of the programs, please go back to the YouTube channel and check the playlist God Sees. So this is it for today. That's all we have time, and we'll be back again giving continuation to this beautiful and wonderful story, a story of justice. God bless you. Bye-bye now. Has this program been of help for you? Feel free to share with someone who also will benefit from watching it. You feel free to press the share button, and if you want, you can like it and leave your comments below. God bless.